Hey, welcome back to the Easy Hard versus Hard podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping you find the work that actually matters in your life. I want to start off today's episode by thanking everyone for the feedback and the comments that I've received to date. Very pleased that we've put out 15 of these, so today will be number 16. And thank you all for listening and supporting and for the comments and encouragement that everyone's provided. I know the last few weeks we've had a few guests on. I hope you've learned from them and had some takeaways to help you find your hard and avoid the easy hard in your life. Today I was planning to go deeper into the book, which for all those who are following that, we're in final editing, so be on the lookout soon. That should be out no later than November. Maybe we'll have an October launch date, but everything's going great there. So again, thanks everyone for the support there. But and the topic was going to be on self-discipline. And while we will get to that eventually, I woke up this morning and I was burdened with something else that I want to talk about. And this is based on both conversations I've had with neighbors and friends over the past couple weeks. But then an event happened this week where a gentleman was murdered for his beliefs. And I'm not getting into politics. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm not a political person. In fact, I'm apolitical. I find that politics lead us to easy hard far more than they do to hard. They shift our perspective on the things that matter, and we end up taking on events and thoughts that really don't apply to us, but we think they do, and they replace what we want to do. But we'll talk more about that later. But I was struck with this gentleman's murder, I'm going to say. And the topic that I've been discussing with others is, finding love and focusing on love. We live in a world today that's got so much hate going on. And I think if we look at the hate that we see and that we observe every day, maybe we even have some ourselves, it's based on things that we don't observe or things that are told to us. And I think that's a very dangerous thing. And this applies to the easy hard versus hard method, because remember, easy hard is doing something for the approval of others, but it's also influenced heavily by the opinions of others. And it can cause us to get distracted from what we want to do or how we want to do it. And I know all of us are going to believe different things, and we're going to observe the world differently. But I challenge you today to make sure that what you do observe and what you do think and what does generate your actions are based on your core beliefs and also based on what you observe. We should live with love. That's what this is all about. That's what the hard's all about, is love. An upcoming book I'm going to write is going to be about the two greatest commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and treat your neighbor as yourself. Well, nowhere in there is there hate. Nowhere there's even room for hate. It says, love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. What I want to do is talk a little bit today about why we take love for granted and why we're so quick to put in hate. Hate is the ultimate easy hard, right? It's fueled by your fears, your insecurity, pain. Sometimes it's not even fueled by your pain. It's the pain you observe in others or the things you've been told by others. That's a dangerous cycle, because when we allow culture, media, social media to inject this fear into our lives, we're basically borrowing trouble that's not ours. We're accepting things as truth that we don't observe. So we've talked a lot about the way the mind works. And so if your mind observes a peaceful world where your neighbors get along, your family loves each other, your job's going great, but yet you inject it with this fear that you get from whatever media source you use or whatever book you read or, anyone you talk to. If you take their fears and their anxiety on yourself, your brain starts telling you, hey, you thought you were in a good state, but you're not anymore. You're in trouble. And that becomes your default. And your brain starts protecting you. So the more and more you get into these situations or consume this information, the more hate, the less love you're going to feel in your life. So how do we contradict that? Well, we fill ourselves with love. We love is probably one of the most powerful emotions and feelings that a human has. A lot of cognitive science says that if we're happy or have love in our hearts, that we can experience fear and anger. And that doesn't mean that there's unhealthy, fear, anger in life. But at the end of the day, if we're guided by love, our love of ourselves, of our friends, our family, the work that we're doing, we don't have room for any of this stuff. A neighbor of mine received a book from a friend that he challenged you to identify 1,000 things you love in your life. Imagine that, 1,000 things that you love in your life. I'm sure we all have them, but when's the last time you've written down 5 or 6 or 7 of them, right? We wake up in the mornings and immediately pick up our phones and boom, this happened, this happened, this happened, and we go into this turmoil. We didn't take, even the time to appreciate the day, appreciate the sunrise, or appreciate the fact that we even made it through another night of sleep and we get to live another day. If we focus on love, it sets up our day. It sets up the hard work because it gives our brain, our emotions, our energy towards positives. And the more we focus on what's wrong with the world or what's wrong with this or that, the more we get away from that. The easier it is to slip into the easy hard and start working on things that get us applause. Start relieving this tension that we've created for ourselves in a lot of cases. I know there's a lot of terrible things that go on in the world, but how many terrible things are happening to you right now? How many have you observed personally? And if you have, I deeply am sorry for you and hope that you can find the help and the support that you need to get over them. But I find that most of us do not have anything in our lives on a day-to-day basis that bring this about. I know this firsthand because, as I've mentioned, I've struggled with depression for years. And once I started digging into the root of my depression, I found that a majority of it was how I controlled my thoughts, how I controlled the way I received information. And it turned out I had to eliminate most information in my life. Comedian Ari Shafir said that if something's important enough, someone will tell you. So I kind of adopted that as my own policy, and it's worked wonders because if there is an event or something that I need to know about or drawn to my attention, someone's probably going to tell me about it. I find that often people tell me a lot of things that are important to them that, hey, I didn't know it, but, I just let it slide off my back. Well, prior to me doing this deep dive and using love, my love of others, my love of God, I would dwell on that, right? I would let like bad news or a situation rule my day, and then it would rule my thoughts. And before I knew it, I was in a depressed state. And none of this stuff, in retrospect, had anything to do with me or my responsibilities or the work I was doing, but yet it robbed me of all those things. So when we see an event that's happened this week and had to be done on hate, had to be done on a disagreement of dogma or policy or, who knows? Nobody knows yet. But if we allow negativity, hate to replace the love in our hearts, the love for our fellow humans, then what is it capable of? I just read a book called The Happiest Man Alive, and it was a Holocaust survivor's account of, his situation in the concentration camps. And he was in several, escaped many times, kept getting put back. And the horrible things that happened to this man almost made me sad to the core. But yet I took that book as information of like, if this man could love, and if he could become what he calls himself, the happiest man alive after what has been done to him, then who am I to ever be sad about what's being done to me? I hope none of us ever experience what this man went through. And I encourage everyone to read this book because it's a really great perspective on how we can overcome and how we can separate what's either happening to us or what we observe to be happening to us and really find our core purpose. And that's what the hard method's all about, right? It's finding that core, that meaning in life, the purpose, what drives you every single day. And once you do that, you're not going to have time for all of this hate, discord. You're going to lead with love because you're loving yourself, because you're chasing what matters to you. And you're probably doing it for a reason to help others and to impart your wisdom and knowledge upon others. Like I said before, love is the most powerful emotion we can have, and it's more than a feeling. Love is actually an action, right? You're listening, you're being patient, you're being forgiving, you're being caring and compassionate to others. Once we abandon those kind of feelings and we stop being patient and we stop listening and we stop, forgiving people, that's where the danger creeps in. And that's where it really starts taking over your mind and starts ruling every single thing you do every single day. Love will also protect you. It gives you peace. Everyone's always searching for peace and happiness. Well, start with love. Start with writing down 5 things you love. It could be as simple as your wife, your kids, your dog, your cat. But then dive into it more. Like, what else do you love? Do you love the fact that you get to, have the freedom to move about, to say what you want, to, help your neighbors, to even mow your grass? I found that mowing my grass is one of the greatest things that I get to do every week. And I love it. So if I'm feeling down or anxious or something like that, I just go out and do some yard work. And maybe I don't mow my grass every day because that would be a little too much. But, it's little things like that. I used to discount the little things. I used to think, oh, if you're happy about everything, then really are you happy about anything? Well, no, you are, because it resets your brain. Try being exuberantly happy about something, but also sad at the same time. It's impossible. The human body is not designed for that. So really tap into the power of love. And I'm not talking about the squishy, when we see love on t-shirts and those kind of things. I mean, what do you truly love? What lights you up? What do you get positive emotions, positive feelings, positive thoughts from? Tap into those things and exploit those. And I use the word exploit intentionally here. Use love as your medicine, as your self-motivation, your self-determination. Fuel yourself with love, and you will not be able to fuel yourself with hate. And I think the more you do this, the more you're going to find that, oh, well, these things that I was worried about, or, that I wanted to hate, you just can't do it because you have so much love. And you're going to want to make a change. You're going to want to do the work that you're doing to help improve the situation versus further it. So how do we do this? How do we start feeling love and planning loves in our life? It begins with you. Just like all hard work, it all begins with you. So take stock of where you're at today. Think of something that's made you angry over the past week or month, and then determine, are you angry about it today? Chances are, no, it was an emotion. You got fired up about it. But what did that emotion or fired upness cause you to do? Did it cause you to act in a way that you didn't want? Were you unkind to someone just for the sake of, being unkind? Or did you take that emotion and use it to fuel you to become better? And that's what the whole self-leadership's all about. Is we're not perfect. All of us make mistakes. We all get angry about things, and we all can let that in either influence us or make us improved. In Japanese culture, the word chaos, it means an ability to change. So what are you going to do with this information? If you do get angry, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to make yourself better? Are you going to observe the way you thought and felt and really do a deep dive into why you thought that way? Or are you just going to let it fuel your next thing and your next thing? And before you know it, you don't love your dog as deeply. You don't love your wife as deeply. And like I said, it creeps into your life, and it gets you to a point that who knows what's possible. I mean, we've seen it in recent years of what's possible when differing opinions collide, and it gets to the point where they can't let it go, or they can't, let love guide them, right? It overcomes their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their actions, unfortunately. And that's what I want us all to think about and make sure we're not on the path. I'm sure 99%, probably way more than 99% of the people are never going to let that get to that point. But notice the dangers in others and make sure you're planning accordingly. When I talk about love, it doesn't ignore problems. Problems are real. There are things in the world. There is some hate around us. There is hate that maybe we even have that we need to get rid of. But love can help us get over those. Love is the medicine that we need and the help that we can get to get past that. So I want you all to just really tap into love and figure out where you haven't been loving, where you could love more, and improve that. Maybe instead of spending 15 minutes watching the news, you spend 15 minutes writing about what you love, or thinking about what you love, or just being with what you love, doing what you love. If we can get to that point, I think we're going to be a better society. We're also individually going to be able to tap into our heart and not be so distracted and find the easy hard and search the approval or the dogma or the groupthink of others, all things that we've talked about in the past. Another way we can do this is to start each day with gratitude. This is another thing that I used to think was just bonkers. Everyone's talking about gratitude journals and, all these things. And again, all these things are bonkers if you don't do it with intention. If you just write 5 things down that you love because someone told you that's the way to do it, that's not going to help you. You need to truly believe why you love them. So I would encourage you that if you are someone who likes to write things down and journal, and as I mentioned, start a list of things you love, write a why you love them. Like for me, my dogs, I love my dogs dearly, but why? Well, because they give me a break in the day. Their innocence, the way they act without, thinking about anything. Sometimes that results in problems, but most of the time it gives you joy, right? You can look at your dog and smile, or at least I hope you can. I can tell you that when I was riddled with depression and I was in my worst anxiety states, I would look at my dogs and feel nothing. I mean, they'd be in front of me, and sure, I would still care for them because that was my responsibility. But wow, that's scary. That was one of the turning points for me, is when I looked at things that I truly love and I couldn't get the feeling or the emotion out of it. That's when I knew I needed to change. And one thing I needed to do is, accept this love, acknowledge it, and be grateful for it every single day. So when you do gratitude, really internalize it. Make sure you're extremely grateful that you get to be that. I mean, if nothing else, be grateful that you're alive. You hear of all the disease and sickness, and you could get bit by a spider or a snake and pass away. I mean, the odds of us making it to every single day are astounding, but yet we're doing it. And if you make it over that hurdle, what a great gift. What a beautiful day. It could be raining, snowing, sleeting, whatever. Still a beautiful day because you're still on the earth. You still have time to develop, to grow, to love, to be your heart, to fulfill your journey. Why God created you. Focus on that. Don't focus on what others are doing. That's the whole easy, hard thing. When you focus on others, what others are doing, and especially when you allow them to steal your love and your gratitude for life, very dangerous, as we've discussed. When we are tempted to criticize or get angry, take a break. Mel Robbins has a famous book called The 5-Second Rule. Take 5 seconds. Take 5 minutes. Really decide if this is something that's worth your time, your energy, your emotions on. I think once you start practicing this, even in the simple things, you're going to see that a lot of the things that we let rob our energy and our joy and slip us away from the purpose that we want to pursue don't really matter. And if our reaction to them were just, we allowed them to happen and then let them pass, then we'd be fine. She follows up her 5-second rule with a book called Let Them. If someone's being rude to you or whatever, let them. Don't then take what they did to you and go do it to someone else, because it's like the butterfly effect. You're perpetuating that negative thought, that hatred. Lead with love. If someone's, mean to you, love them more. I heard a story the other day about someone who did something very terrible and really didn't uphold the ideals of their organization and basically brought a lot of shame and ruin to them. And the person that was telling me the story about this said, I love this person. And the thought came to me, well, when someone does something wrong or something to hurt you, maybe it's time to love them more. Maybe it's time to be more of what they are. That doesn't mean accept what they're doing. Offer correction, offer guidance if needed, but at the same time, love them. I think a lot of times if we look at the disagreements that we have with others, it's often 5 or 10% difference in the way we think, but yet we allow that to outrule the person. So really when you're tempted to criticize or be angry, just take a moment and think. Another thing, and we've talked about it briefly, is try to give love every single day. Don't just keep it all inside. Give it to someone else. It could be a simple act of waving to your neighbors as you walk around the neighborhood, or letting someone, go in front of you in the checkout line. Whatever it is, you'll get a sense for it. You'll look at someone's body language and say, oh, this person could use a little bit of love today. And maybe finding love and giving love is your hard heart. And maybe that's a great place to start. Maybe you find that you're dissatisfied at the end of the day, you're frustrated with people. Well, maybe you can change that narrative by just offering them a hand, a smile, a handshake, whatever it is. Just give love. I used to think I only had to give. But the last thing I'd like to talk about is make sure you receive others' love. If someone's kind to you, accept it. Be grateful for it. If someone offers, you encouragement, take it. Don't take it as criticism. Don't jump to it. I mean, we say a lot of words every day. And a lot of times the words we say are taken out of context. And that's unfortunate. But when we take something out of context, it's us that's taking them out of context. We don't know the person's thoughts, feelings behind what they say. I mean, sometimes we do, but for the most part, if someone makes a comment to you offhanded, it might be for good. And even if it's not, take it for good, because you get to do whatever you want with the information you receive, whether it's news, whether it's a compliment, whether it's, an analysis or something. You get to decide what you want to do with it. Taking back that power and not delegating it to a media stream or an author or a podcast host, that's going to help you so much get to your heart. It's going to help you live in this love state and not allow hate, discontent, anxiety to take over your lives. While hate may get attention, love is going to build your legacy. It's going to build your purpose, your meaning in life. So chase it. I often say I don't know what someone's hard heart is, but I think loving others, following those 2 commandments, loving our God, loving our neighbors, loving ourselves, that's probably everyone's hard heart, because it's increasingly difficult in this world where we observe hatred and discord. Remember, most of this hate and discord that's being sown in the media and books and all this, it's to promote an agenda or promote someone's career. They may not even mean it, but yet they just say it. So take everything with a grain of salt and find out how it applies to you. In closing, I hope this was valuable to you. I just felt burdened because, like I said, the conversations I've been having lately have all been centered around love. And then we witnessed an act that was the complete opposite of love. It was pure hate. And that's just one event. I'm sure we could list 100 of them if we wanted to. But I don't want to, because I don't want to dwell in that world. I want to live in the world that's in front of me. I want to live in the world where my neighbors get together and help each other out if there's a problem. We had a friend in my neighborhood who moved this weekend. People came out and supported him. That's where love is. Not one time did anyone talk about anything they hated or didn't like, because we escaped it. That's another thing. The more you involve yourself in things that you love, you're not going to be focused on this. It's going to be a mental release for you. It's going to be a physical, a spiritual release for you. So chase that. Find those opportunities. If you do find yourself, being hateful or angry, change your situation. Change your state. Go find something that makes you happy. Call a friend you haven't talked to in a long time. Whatever it takes, get yourself out of that situation as quick as possible, because it will not serve you. If this resonated with you at all, please share it with someone. My hope and prayer is that we can all love more. The whole purpose of the easy hard versus hard method, this podcast, is to help people not fall into the trap I was in. If we can make the world a better place around us, we can eventually eliminate hate, whether it's real, perceived. We can do it. It starts with us. It starts with each one of you. It starts with me, and it starts today. So go out there and find your hard heart. And until next time, I'm Bobby Shelton, and I hope you find the work that actually matters in in your life.